everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of the Cougar Cast. I'm Olivia.
And I'm Daniel.
And today we have a really great guest here with us today. We have Cece Davis. And our topic for today is going to be more around missionary work. As you guys know, in Guatemala, there are a lot of missionaries that come here from all over the place. And so today we get to interview one of those people. So would you like to start off with a biography, Daniel?
Sure. Her name is Cece Davis, or Cecilia Wilburn Davis. She was born in Oakland, California, the third of 11 children, having 5 brothers and 5 sisters. She lived in Oakland, San Francisco, Santa Cruz, and San Diego before she left California. She also lived in Virginia for 10 years and South Carolina for 17 years. She has 2 children. Dorian, her son, is 30, and he now lives in Chicago, Illinois. Her daughter, Amina, is 26 and lives in Manchester, Tennessee. Oh, that's you, right?
Yeah. She's been in education since 2007 and has been a 5th grade teacher for the majority of that time. Until she came to Guatemala to teach at CAG, she taught in specifically public schools in South Carolina. She's taught reading interventions, general education, and gifted and talented education. Before she began her teaching career, she worked in insurance, and she went to College of Charleston, Concordia University, and Converse College. So thank you so much for having us, for being with us today, Ms. Cece Davis. Yeah. And so, do you think you could tell us a little bit about your background? How did you come to Guatemala? How did you get called to missions?
Okay. Well, my Christian background, when I grew up, my mom was Episcopalian, but we went to church sometimes. I didn't really have a relationship with Jesus. And that was when I was 18 and moved to San Diego. One of my aunts, she was actually Baptist, but she had a great relationship with Jesus. She was very much a woman of God, very involved in church. And she was the one who really introduced me to Jesus as my Savior. And so that's when I was 18 when I was saved. Wow. And then throughout my life, I still followed that path. I started serving in church in different capacities. Usually it was with kids. I was either doing kid care or I was teaching. We didn't call it Sunday school. We called it church school. So teaching Sunday school, those kind of things. And then I started getting involved with the youth in ministry because my daughter was a youth pastor. She got involved with the youth and became a youth leader and then a youth pastor. And so she said, "Mommy, you should, join Fuse." That's our middle school, high school ministry. And you guys actually met my daughter when she came last year. She was Amina Davis. She was one of the leaders with the spiritual emphasis team that came in February. And I was like, "Nope, not doing it. I'm fine doing the things that I'm doing." And finally, she convinced me. And so I just started my path serving the youth, not just with teaching, but helping to disciple them. And then in 2022, Brandon Loftus, our former director, we belonged to the same church in South Carolina, but we didn't know each other because our church has 13 campuses, and he was in the upstate and I was in Charleston, but he was good friends with one of our teaching pastors, and he, talked to him and told him about the need. And one Sunday we were praying for ministries and organizations and missionaries around the globe that we support, and CAG was one. And so I wrote down CAG because I'm a teacher, and I was like, Christian Academy of Guatemala, that's close to my heart. I'll pray for it. Didn't really think much about it. Second service, because I was there for both services, when he asked for us to pray, he said they specifically need teachers, this many teachers, I don't remember how many, and then 1 5th grade teacher, which was me. So I kind of felt a little shoulder tap. And so I talked to my pastor and I said, "Brendan, I think I just kind of got a little shoulder tap." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" So I explained it to him, and he said, "Well, you pray about it and I'll pray about it." And next thing you know, I'm talking to our director of missions for New Spring Church. And then I'm talking to Brandon Loftus. And then I'm completing an application and I'm flying to. So it was a year later that I ended up coming here.
Wow, that's a beautiful thing. And so do you say that you've always felt a pull to work with children and youth? Is that kind of always been something that you've enjoyed?
Not always. I didn't think I was going to be a teacher. I didn't want to teach. And but I knew just because of different positions I was put in, or just coaching and guiding and mentoring and training. And then once I started substitute teaching, I knew it was what I was called to do.
Wow.
But I didn't always want to do it.
Yeah, it's really interesting how positions can change in our perspective, right? So
Yes.
you first started as a 5th grade teacher here, right? And now you're the elementary principal.
Correct.
Right. So what does that look like? What do you do as the elementary principal?
I'm not just guiding a 5th grade class of 10 or 11 students like I was last year. I'm helping to guide and disciple 52 students plus the teachers that are there.
Wow.
So it's a bit more responsibility, but I have a great team and the kids are great.
That's great.
Yes.
And how would you say that like your faith and being a Christian has influenced your work and like your approach to teaching?
Wow, that's a good question. I really do believe in the principle that we are teaching and guiding and discipling our youth is a tremendous responsibility. I mean, Jesus said it would be better for us to put a millstone around our neck and jump into a lake than to misguide them or mislead them. And so I really do feel a call for that. And even in public school in South Carolina, fortunately, because I was in the South, I was able to still be open with my faith, which was great. But having that principle guide me, helped me to be able to have good relationships with my students and be able to be a good leader in my class, even if I'm not giving them scripture to technically disciple or guide them. I'm able to, the way that I act, the way that I behave toward them, the relationships that I have with their family, I'm able to, or I was able to actually be able to still guide them and let them know that, I love them because God loves them, so I love them, and that they can be a light to the world also.
Yeah.
I think that's...
And you said that you worked in a public school before,
Yes.
correct? And so what are some of the differences that you've seen between like working at a public school and here at CAG?
Well, the public school I worked at, one of my classes, we had 29 students. And
Wow.
so I came from, because I taught math, science, social studies the last year that I came. So I partner taught with with another teacher. And we had 29 students in one class and 24 students in the other class. So having smaller class sizes. Also, the involvement, like parental involvement here, I see the parents when they drop off their kids every day. They get out of their cars, they hug their kids and say goodbye. I see parents coming to conferences. We had all of our parents come to conferences.
Wow.
Whereas in the public school, we would have, we would schedule 53 conferences and we would have maybe 10 parents show up.
Wow.
Parents who did drop off their students, they drive up, they drop them off, they take off, which is good because 700 and some odd kids, and depending on how many are car riders, that can be a lot. But just the involvement of the families and also being able to openly discuss our faith. I think that that's an amazing thing to be able to do, because there are so many kids, especially in the public school, where they don't have hope or they're struggling with things, and you can't really say, oh, I know you're struggling with it, let me pray for you. You have to kind of pray quietly, where right now I even had a kid last week. I said, do you want me to pray with you? And he said, yes. And I went ahead and prayed with him. And that's such an amazing thing to be able to do openly.
I think the involvement in CAG is something that's very important, because I have people who I know in the States who are my age or younger, and they go to public schools and they talk about how there's not as much involvement.
Yes.
It's not the same as a school like this where parents and community is more active and close. And I think that it's really important for the development of, kids.
It is,
and
yes.
for their mental health too, and for them to do well in class. They need that motivation of, my parents going to come to this conference, and so I want to try my best. And so would you say there are any challenges that have come with you working at CAG or moving to Guatemala?
Well, and I gave you the very short story of me being called to come here, but when I studied a foreign language in school, I studied French. Oh. Even though I grew up in California, I didn't feel like I needed to learn Spanish. So I came here not being a Spanish speaker. And so I am learning it, but I can tell you, having another language in your head already, and then being 55, I mean, it's like trying to learn a foreign language. Trying to learn Spanish is just, my brain is not, that's a big challenge because I want to be able to communicate. So trying to learn that, and just being so far from family, it's not like I can just take a car trip really quickly and go and see them. That part can be a struggle sometimes because I'm here by myself. But,
so do you still speak French?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why did you choose to learn French?
Parce que tous mes amis parlaient espagnol. So a lot of my friends were taking, estudiar español. But a lot of my friends were taking Spanish, and I wanted to do something different.
Yeah.
That's understandable.
But would you say French has helped you with Spanish, or
no, not at all?
Really?
There are some things that are similar, but a lot that are different, I feel like.
And how long have you lived in Guatemala?
I've been here since July of last year, so
July
16 months.
Last year. Wow.
Wow. Okay.
That's a short amount of time. I mean, it's really incredible to see how, God can plant seeds in your life so quickly, and how things like that can happen like so fast. I mean, for example, the Wills, they just moved here recently. And so it's really incredible to see how God works through other people's lives in other countries too. And how would you say that God has worked through CAG to help you?
There is a lot of, one way that God has worked through CAG to help me is there are so many people here who work together with you, because we have a large part of our teaching community that are missionaries. They understand when you come. And so even before I came, Mrs. Cortez, she had contacted me. She said, if you need a ride anywhere, if you need help with anything, go ahead and give me a call. And so the first I got here, I want to say on a Thursday or something, like that first Saturday I was here, she took me shopping so I could get groceries.
Oh, wow.
And so many people are great about reaching out and helping. We have a community that we have the CAG Women's Bible Study. So being able to have a Bible study with the other teachers that are here has also been a great support to me, but also the families. I've had so much support from my students' families, gifts or prayers or, offers of help or anything like that.
Yeah.
So.
And so you've talked quite a bit about your experience with CAG. What has your experience been in Guatemala with the culture and people? What has that been like for you?
I'm trying to get out a little bit more now that I have a car. So when Mrs. Murphy left, I bought her car so I can get around a little bit more. But Mrs. Rich and I are good friends, so we do things together. But the experience has been good. Like, I have not had a bad experience here. People are helpful. People understand when you say, yo no hablo español muy bien, or whatever it is that you say. And they're like, okay. And sometimes they want to practice their English with you. They'll say, well, I want to practice my English. I've gotten to go a number of places. A couple of weekends ago, we went to Lake Atitlan. And then we have a ministry where we're serving some of the families in Zona 6. And they have been so gracious and just, helpful to us, just welcoming us in. And because strange people are coming to your house to deliver things to you. And my inclination would be, thank you, okay, bye-bye. Whereas they're like, come on in, sit down and allow us to pray with them and share the gospel with them and those things. But it's been a good experience.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful country.
Yeah. Now, returning a little bit to the topic of teaching, what would you say has been your most rewarding experience as a missionary teacher here in CAG?
Just seeing students, and this was rewarding for me when I started serving with youth ministry also, just seeing students develop their own relationship with Christ. We have kids, like there's a little first grade kid who I know someday is going to be doing something amazing for the Lord. And they always, Miss Arriaga's class, when they line up for lunchtime, they always pray while they're lining up for their lunch and all of that. And I heard him pray for them. And so during chapel, I asked him, I said, well, will you come up and pray? And he said, sure. So he came, first grader. I never would have done this in first grade. Comes up and prays. And the prayer was so, sorry.
That's okay.
The prayer was so powerful. And just seeing Christ work through these kids and knowing, and you guys, like I said, I'm getting old and we're looking at our world and seeing, all of you guys, you're the ones that are going to be running the world and being able to see that it's in good hands.
Yeah.
It is. I know a lot of people talk about, oh, this is going on in the world and the kids these days. But I see so much amazing, just so many amazing kids and so much of Jesus in so many kids these days. And I feel like we're going to be in good hands.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And would you say that there is a difference in the students and in the kids compared in CEG compared to like public schools, whether it be how they interact with teachers or them as students? Are there any differences, similarities that you've noticed?
In some ways, kids are kids.
Yes.
Kids are kids. We always say that. Kids are, rambunctious and do silly things and make mistakes. So do we. But I have seen that the kids here are more respectful, and that there is more connection with the families. I think that's one of the big parts, is that there's more connection with the families, and that the kids here do have a background, a Christian background, or are being discipled. Whereas in the States, you can kind of tell that they're just like, oh, it's whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's what most of the difference that I've seen, the respect and then the connection with the families.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And what would you say to someone that's maybe considering a similar path in missionary work?
I would say if God has called you to do it, you should do it. I was talking to another person, I think it was Mrs. Pishkar, not that long ago about this, because I told her, I was led to do this, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to teach. I didn't want to do this. And I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to go to Guatemala, those different things. And I would just say, if God is calling you to do it, you're supposed to do it in some kind of way. He's going to work out his plan in your life. So do that. Make sure you have support, whether that's, financial support or emotional support, moral support, or anything like that. And stay grounded in Him and in the Word. Because that's been one of the things that I've learned coming here, is that the Lord has been stretching my faith and my dependence on Him. I'm a very independent person. And He has led me to know that I need to depend on Him. And there's some things I know I can't do everything. I know it intuitively. I know I can't do everything, but I want to.
Yeah.
But He's led me to know that He's there, and He's always going to be faithful.
Mm-hmm. And also, I want to ask, what were your kids' reactions when you told them that you were going to move to Guatemala?
Dorian thought I was crazy. He's like, Guatemala, mommy, really? They call me mommy, but I call my mom mommy. Amina was very, very proud. Again, she's more involved in the church. Dorian's kind of moved away from the church a little bit, but Amina's very involved and very missions minded, very spiritual. And so she said, I'm very proud of you. She said, I'll miss you, but I'm very proud of you. So her reaction has been a little bit more, I guess, positive. But Dorian has come along, and he thinks it's great. But she also, because she prayed for me before we left, we had a gathering, and she prayed for me, and she said, I don't. She had already talked to the Father, and she said, I don't think you're coming back. So I said, I haven't heard that message yet. The Lord hasn't told me that yet.
Sorry.
So
you can go, Daniel.
would you see yourself here long term in Guatemala or in the mission field?
Yes, I guess the things that I felt like I was supposed to do before this, or, as a parent, you want to wrap things up. You want your kids to be settled and, comfortable and productive. And then you want things to be a certain way. But the Lord spoke to me at a perfect time. He knows his timing is always perfect, but at a perfect time for me to be able to come. And for right now, I told him, and that's actually, if you ever look at my signature, I told him, I said, "Here I am, Lord, send me." And I'm still available to him, whatever it is that he needs me to do.
Yes.
Or wants me to do.
And so we kind of wanted to wrap up the interview. This is something that we always ask. What are some ways that CAG can be praying for you? How can our community be praying for you?
That's a good question. Pray that I continue to say yes. Pray that I allow those walls to come down, because I still, kind of want to build the walls and stay in my comfort zone. Pray that I continue to be able to serve the elementary team and kids well, and serve CAG well. I think that's it for now.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. We'll be praying for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we usually end every episode with a Bible verse of the week.
Okay.
So this week it's Mark 16:15, and in the NIV it says, "He said, 'Go to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel into all creation.'" Would you like to give us any thoughts on that, Miss Davis, on that verse?
Sorry for putting you on the spot.
No, it's fine. Yes, he said to do it and go and preach it to all creation. And before really this calling, sometimes I said I wanted to go to other countries, but it really wasn't for the gospel. It was more just to go and teach English. But then when I really started internalizing, Isaiah 6:8, or this, where Jesus told us to go and make disciples, then I think it's very necessary. And we've talked quite a bit about, I say we, like the teachers and meetings and things, we've talked quite a bit about the people we see every day. We don't know whether or not they're saved. We don't know their hearts. Only God can see their hearts, but at least give them the opportunity to know that there is salvation and that there is hope in Jesus.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, and I think this verse is really, really important to us as Christians. Really not just having faith, but also sharing our faith with others.
Yeah.
And it's not just any faith we have. The faith that we have is, in reality, the true faith, right? Because there's many religions in the world, many things, and but those aren't the true faith. The faith that we share in Jesus Christ is a true faith. So I think just sharing the gospel and spreading the gospel to others in our everyday life is super important, because people need Jesus. I mean, every one of us needs Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah.
And our message is well, it's not our message, it's his message, right? But the message that we carry is so important. So yeah, I think that, and sometimes you can get like fear can stop us from sharing the gospel.
Definitely.
But I think we can put fear aside,
Right.
and then just, like this verse says, go into all the world and preach the gospel, right? So yeah, do you have any thoughts, Olivia?
No, you guys practically said everything that I was thinking. Well, thank you so much, Miss Davis, for being here. It was really great being able to talk to you. And to everyone watching, thank you guys for coming to episode 6. We encourage you guys to come next week. We upload every week. And so thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe and check out our socials. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.